What's up, guys? Today we're going to begin our financial unit, and I'm going to just kind of forewarn you, it's more so kind of a discussion, and there's some vocabulary words that you should be writing down as we're going through these to help familiarize yourself with some terminology that you may not be as familiar with. You may have heard them before, but we're going to try to put them in context a little bit. So, thinking about what it is you think of when you hear the term financial literacy, or why do you think it's important to understand money management, is financial literacy. It helps us to understand how money works, including budgeting, savings, investing, and managing debt. And that's kind of what we're going to talk about to start off with. Some importance of financial literacy is that it helps us with budgeting and avoiding debt, teaches us to save for future goals such as college and emergencies, and impacts employment choices and lifestyle decisions for sure. So, some importance of managing our finances is understanding our spending habits. Like, are we spending too much for one thing versus another? Do we really need a card that expensive? Can we afford something else? Would I rather have this money be spent elsewhere on something that actually matters to me? It helps individuals make informed decisions about spending as well as savings. Also, trying to avoid debt. Effective management of finances can protect against excessive debt and financial distress, which is not good. Also, being able to achieve goals. Sound financial management is crucial for reaching personal financial goals, such as buying a home or retiring comfortably. And then also having a sense of empowerment. Being financially literate empowers individuals to make informed choices about their financial future. So let's get into some key concepts for this unit. We're going to talk about income, which is money received often from work, such as like by salary and wages, investments, or other sources. But most of the time when you're starting out, you're just going to have income from your job more than likely. And so if you look at your bank statement once you have a job, there's typically like very little things that are coming in to your very not amount, but very few frequencies that you see money coming in. And that might be your paycheck or somebody Venmoing you or something. And you'll see a lot of things going out looking at your bank statement. So, speaking of income, and I'm not gonna talk about this a whole lot until the end, but I looked this up just to kind of put this in perspective. I know that this is average, so there's going to be exceptions. People less, people are going to be more. But I did this because most of you guys are 17 and 18 years old, and in 4 years, assuming you go to college, you may have a bachelor's degree at that time, and you'll probably start working in maybe the field that you went to go to college for. Or if you didn't go to college, you're doing something else, um, uh, like for work, hopefully, going through that. So, either way, I looked up the average gross annual income for a 22-year-old. So, when you guys kind of get to that point where you're starting your career, um, it's $60,000. And without a college degree, the average U.S. income was $36,000. And then looking at the average net. So the net amount is what you get after all deductions are taken out, such as taxes and Social Security and healthcare and things like that. So the average net income for a 22-year-old was 48,000, and annual means yearly, and without a college degree was 29,000. So, just to remind you guys, gross is the amount you make before taxes, and net is the amount you make afterwards. And I learned this in seventh grade. Gross is what you make, net is what you take. So, even though you go and you get a job and they say, we're going to start you off at $60,000, you can expect to take home about 48,000. And that can vary, obviously. Um, so that's income. Looking at expenses, that's money spent on goods or services. This can be a fixed amount, so something that is like you pay this amount every month, like rent or insurance. Like you pay $1,000 a month for your apartment. It's not going to be $1,500 next month or $1,373 a month after that. It's fixed until your lease is up or whatever. And then you have expenses that can vary, such as groceries or entertainment. So going back to did you know? So this is did you know with expenses. So we're going to look at different types of expenses. And so um, when you do get on your own, like a common living expense, an essential living expense is having a place to live. So you can either choose to live with roommates or choose to live by yourself or stay at home with mom and dad. That's allowed. Um, so why people may want to stay at home, because it's expensive, like to live. Like, so the average one bedroom apartment in the U.S. is about $1,575 per month, and the average three bedroom, two bath home in the U.S. is going to vary greatly based off of, or the type of home, I'm sorry, you can get is going to vary greatly. So these two homes down here are one's from Fort Worth and one's from California. Hopefully you can see they're like the one on the left is more expensive than the one on the right, and the one on the right looks like it's made out of brick and has some Austin stone and things like that. It looks a little bit nicer, but different parts of the world, country, like homes are going to be less like you're going to get more for your buck in certain parts of the country and other parts of the country. But either way, a reasonable estimate is somewhere between $2,300 to $2,800. So we'll just say the average. We'll use the national average of 2,317 is the average mortgage payment for like an entry level three bedroom, two bath home, something like that. And then we also have an expense, which is utilities. And these are also things that most of these are going to be monthly expenses that you pay monthly, such as electricity, water, gas, cable, internet, streaming service, a cell phone service. Um, those can also vary based off of state and region. But the average monthly cost in the U.S. is what I looked up is about $600 a month. Another expense you need if you want to keep your job, unless you work from home, is you need a vehicle to get there. And I've never spent $742 on a car payment, but that was the average monthly cost of a new car. A reliable used car is $525. I think that I think that there's ways that number can be less, depending on if you have money to put down as a down payment or you have a trade-in value to get those numbers down, and you don't just go and buy like the $40,000 car on the showroom floor or whatever. So with vehicles, you have a couple different expenses, right? You have a car payment, and then you also have to insure that car, and then you have to pay gas for that car. So these are some average monthly car payments for new and used, average auto insurance, and average gas prices. And then you have to eat to live. So the average monthly cost for food for one person in the U.S. typically ranges between $239 and $529 a month, and that's per person. So all of these examples are essential monthly expenses, and a monthly expense is a cost you must pay every month. These expenses are often reoccurring and can include things like bills or subscriptions. So the first one we talked about was rent or mortgage. So out of that very few times that you see money coming into your bank account, all these other things are coming out like multiple times, right? Some of them are once a month, but like you have everyday expenses as well. It's like gas and groceries and whatever. So rent and mortgage is the amount you pay for a home. Utilities, we talked about groceries, what you spend on food, and household supplies. Like you may think that you're only spending on food, but what about like toilet paper? That's something that is a grocery expense. It's a household supply that you need. Um, Transportation, and then I've included insurance, I think, somewhere else. But these are essential monthly expenses that like everybody has to pay. So let's put this in perspective with our average monthly net income, which we said for a uh, college degree was about 48,000, and for a no college it was 29,000, if I believe. So if I take just the low end of those range numbers, where I said like some of them were between this and that, and I just use the cheapest ones possible. So I'll even use an apartment instead of a house. So that apartment was 1575. If I make $48,000 net a year, that means I'm making about 4,000 a month. So 4,000 goes into my bank account. That's what I have to spend. I need to decide where I'm going to live. How much is it going to cost to live there? What type of car am I going to have? Like, what can I spend on groceries? Like, once I get these big expenses, that because you're going to have these fixed incomes, that's how much they are every month. So depending on what those are and how much you have left over, lets you know how much you can afford on groceries or entertainment or things like that. So this amount's fixed once you get it. The other things are variable. Like you don't have to spend this amount. You don't have to go to, eat out 5 times a week. You can get ramen noodles and eat ramen noodles 5 times a week. Um, Hopefully you don't do that, but let's just apply these things that we just talked about. And if I take my monthly income and subtract my average monthly expenses, that leaves me with having about $708 left over a month to do other things. Like, I mean, you have a birthday party, you want to get like this new outfit or whatever. It's like that's not a lot left over if you think about it. For a 22-year-old without a college degree, if we use those same numbers with their income divided by 12, that leaves us in the hole. So that's not good. So this is where you would have to make a decision on, well, I don't necessarily have to have that car payment. Like maybe I can just go find a car for like like a really used car that maybe is not reliable. Who knows? But then it may break down in a month, and then you're out a car, and you still spent $3,000 on this car to buy it, cash or whatever. Um, you can make some adjustments for sure, but you can choose to live with a roommate, things like that, to get some of those utilities and living arrangements down. So these are just averages. But that was income and expenses, and then you look at the savings side of it. And when we're young, it's almost hard to save unless you have it directly deposited out of your paycheck, so you don't really see it and you don't notice it. Um, and then it just becomes part of it doesn't, you don't feel it, right? So if you can do this and set a savings of whatever you can afford, if you're making $708 left over after expenses, there's not a whole lot of room to put into savings. But even if it's just something small, it's a portion of your income not spent on current expenses set aside for future needs or in emergencies. And then we have debt, which is a problem. So when you don't have a whole lot of money left over, people end up using things like getting credit cards and student loans, etc. Well, not getting student loans, but using credit cards to buy things, and then they get up in debt because they don't have the money to buy it. And so credit cards give you this false sense of, hey, I have this money, when you really don't. It's like you're borrowing that money and then you're paying it back with interest. So that debt is money that is borrowed but not yet paid back. Um, Includes things like loans, credit cards, student loans, etc. And then investing is where we take our money to purchase assets, something that's going to generate a return and make us money over time, like stocks, bonds, or real estate. So that is pretty much today's stuff, an introduction to that. Hopefully you guys learned a little bit, and then tomorrow we'll talk about some other stuff. We'll do some examples and stuff, but today was kind of like a vocab